For years, my family had one question whenever we sat around the dinner table. When are you finally going to get a real job? I had heard it so many times that eventually, I stopped defending myself. That Sunday evening was no different. My mother placed the last dish on the table while my father adjusted his glasses and looked at me. You're 38 now, Danielle. I already knew what was coming. My younger sister, Rachel, sighed. Dad, please, not tonight. But Dad wasn't interested in stopping. I'm only saying this because I care about him. I smiled faintly. Of course. My father pointed his fork toward me. You've spent almost 15 years chasing this photography business. Where has it gotten you? I looked down at my plate. He continued. You live in a tiny apartment. You drive an old car. You don't have a pension. You don't have the kind of job where you know what you're earning next month. My mother nodded. Your cousin bought his second house last year. There it was. The comparison. It happened every family gathering. My cousins had corporate jobs. My sister had a stable career. My father had retired comfortably. And then there was me, the photographer, the one they believed was still trying to make it. Rachel leaned toward me. You could still apply for something stable, Danielle. You have a degree. You could work for an advertising company. I like what I do. Dad shook his head. You've been saying that for 15 years. I put my fork down. I've also been doing it for 15 years. That isn't the point. Then what is? Nobody answered. My mother finally spoke. The point is that we don't want you to wake up one day and realize you wasted your life. I almost laughed. Because if only they knew. For the last 6 years, I had been working on a project I had never discussed with them in detail. I had traveled across the country photographing forgotten communities, interviewing families, documenting abandoned towns and the people who refused to leave them. It started as a small personal project. Then people began noticing. A magazine published some of my photographs. Then another. A publisher contacted me. Then a documentary company. Eventually, one of my projects became an international exhibition. But I never told my family. Not because I was trying to hide my success. I simply got tired of explaining my life to people who had already decided it wasn't worth much. Dad took another bite of food. So, what exactly did you earn last month? I smiled. I did okay. That isn't an answer. It's enough. He sighed. Danielle, this is exactly what I'm talking about. My phone suddenly vibrated against the table. Everyone looked at it. I normally kept my phone silent during family dinners. But I'd been expecting an important call. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number, New York. I nearly ignored it. Then the phone rang again. Dad frowned. Are you seriously going to answer that? I stood. I need to. I walked a few steps away from the table and answered. Hello. A woman's voice came through. Mr. Carter. Yes. This is Elena from the National Arts Council. My stomach tightened. Yes. I'm calling because the committee has finalized its decision. I closed my eyes. My family was watching me. What decision? There was a brief pause. Your photography collection has been selected for this year's national exhibition. I couldn't speak. The woman continued. And there's something else. I turned away from the table. What? Your collection has also been chosen for the International Travelling Exhibition. The first exhibition will open in London this fall. My hand tightened around the phone. Are you serious? Very serious. I thanked her and ended the call. When I returned to the table, everyone was staring at me. Mum spoke first. Who was that? Someone from the Arts Council. Dad laughed softly. About another photography project? I nodded. Yes. He shook his head. Daniel. I interrupted him. They selected my collection for the national exhibition. The room went quiet. Rachel blinked. What does that mean? It means my work will be displayed nationally. Dad stared at me. And the other thing? I hesitated. They also selected it for an international exhibition. Nobody spoke. Mum slowly put down her glass. International? I nodded. London first, then several other cities. Dad looked confused. But how? I smiled. Apparently, people like my work. Rachel reached for her phone. What collection? The photographs I've been working on. She searched my name. Her expression changed almost immediately. Daniel. What? She turned her phone toward Mum. There are articles about him. Dad grabbed the phone. What articles? Rachel started reading. A major photography journal had featured my work. A national newspaper had written about the project. Another article described my collection as one of the year's most powerful visual records of disappearing communities. Dad stopped scrolling. How long has this been happening? A while. And you didn't tell us. I looked at him. Every time I talked about photography, you told me to find a real career. Dad lowered the phone. But we didn't know you were doing this well. You never asked. That sentence hurt more than I expected. Mum looked down. How much have you made from it? I smiled sadly. That's the first question? She immediately shook her head. No, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. Rachel looked at me. Why didn't you tell us? Because I got tired of feeling like I had to prove that my life was worth something. Nobody responded. I continued. You kept telling me I was behind everyone else. You compared me to cousins. You worried about what the neighbors thought. Eventually, I realized I didn't need to convince you anymore. Dad looked genuinely ashamed. Son, I raised my hand. I'm not angry, but we treated you like you were failing. Yes. My mother began crying. I'm sorry. I looked at her. I know. Then my phone vibrated again. I checked the screen. This time it was my agent. I answered. Hello. His voice was excited. Danielle, I've got news. What happened? The museum in Chicago wants to purchase part of the collection. I glanced at my family. How much? He told me. I didn't respond immediately. Dad noticed my expression. What is it? I ended the call. The museum wants to buy 20 photographs from the collection. How much are they offering? Rachel asked. I told them. Nobody moved. Dad leaned back in his chair. My mother covered her mouth. Rachel whispered. Daniel. I looked around the table. For 15 years, they had measured my success by things they could understand. Salary, job title, car, house, benefits. But I had built something they'd never bothered to see. Something that existed even when nobody applauded. Dad finally spoke. I owe you an apology. I nodded. You do. I thought I was protecting you. I know. I thought you were wasting your talent. I looked at him. You were wrong. He nodded slowly. I was. The room became quiet again. Then Dad asked something I'd never heard him ask before. Not how much did you make? Not when will you get a real job? Not why can't you be more like your cousin? He simply asked, Daniel, can you tell me about the photographs? I stared at him. For the first time in 15 years, he wasn't criticizing my dream. He was asking to understand it. So I told him. I told him about the old woman who had lived alone in a dying mining town. About the children playing football beside abandoned factories. About the families who refused to leave the places their grandparents had built. I told them about the photograph that had taken me 3 days to capture. And this time, nobody interrupted. Nobody laughed. Nobody told me to find something more practical. They listened. When dinner finally ended, Dad walked me to my car. Before I opened the door, he stopped me. I'm proud of you. I looked at him. You don't have to be proud because someone else recognized me. He swallowed. I know. Then why are you saying it? Because I should have said it years ago. I didn't know what to say. So I hugged him. That night, when I got home, another email was waiting. The International Exhibition wanted me to give a speech at the opening ceremony. I smiled. For years, I had thought success would feel like proving everyone wrong. It didn't. It felt much quieter than that. Because the truth was, I hadn't spent 15 years building my career to make my family regret doubting me. I had done it because I loved the work. And finally, they were beginning to understand that. Sometimes the biggest victory isn't making the people who doubted you feel ashamed. It's reaching the point where you no longer need their approval to believe in yourself. If you enjoy emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable stories, please subscribe to my channel.